ways, one winner, and one podcast. This is a look back at the 32nd season of Stranded on the 2-year anniversary, Stranded in Turks and Caicos, and I'm your host, Poody. Today we're joined by 5 alumni who experienced the season firsthand and valued members of our community. Hannah, who came in 15th place, Gary, who placed 12th, Joaquin, who came in 10th, Danni, who came in 5th, and Zeke, who came in 3rd. The season began on July 12th, 2018, and concluded on August 13th, 2018, where you all voted for Lucy as the winner in a 9-2 victory. We're now going to take a look back at the season with the people who experienced it firsthand. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, Poody.
So, much like the season, this might be a shit show.
Honestly, compared to like some of the recent Stranded shit, this season was relatively tame.
Oh, no. I mean, the actual season itself was tame, but I mean, like, the twists were OOC,
yeah,
especially in the beginning. I guess I'll explain while we wait for everyone to show up. In the beginning of the season, we kind of did a throwback twist where we had the concept of it started off as another refuge season with new players, but instead of a typical refuge situation, we started with 10 returning players who were hidden from the new cast members, and they were hidden on refuge. And the idea there was to have the veterans compete against each other to enter the game, while at the same time a refuge twist was going on with the new players, where they would vote people into refuge and they would join the veteran. Kind of a little all over the place. I think it was an interesting concept, but needed a little bit more structure and fleshing out, especially considering like a lot of the people sent to refuge were not particularly active. It's interesting. We only have Walk here for our vets to go over the events of refuge.
Yeah, well, I mean, who the fuck else would be here? Like,
Chrissy.
Hello.
Hello.
It wouldn't work for a while.
Hello.
Hello.
There we
Hello.
go.
Yes, free at last, free at last. I can finally speak.
We were just talking that Joaquin is the only veteran representative here, so all the other ones were problematic.
no, Drew isn't problematic. He's just too cool for us.
Yeah, Drew, Karen could have come, probably.
He's too cool for school.
Very much so.
All right, so let's just jump off. Round 1, we have 2 people volunteered to be on refuge, and it was Jim and Figgy. Figgy
was volunteered by us.
Yeah, and she quickly like ghosted, so she was removed. But Skipper Jim was there.
Oh.
The skip. So it says Luca Jan wins the immunity challenge and sends Brian to refuge.
We almost won that one.
Yeah, we were so close, but I sucked. So
A theme of the season.
yeah, pretty much.
I think I almost got the puzzle before Lydia did.
Yeah, you were like, I don't know, like 20 seconds behind, and it took like 2 minutes to get the puzzle even to you, so you would have beat them if I wouldn't have sucked.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, this season is a lot like Indonesia, where the season itself was interesting, but not necessarily something we would think of as like one of our best seasons. But the cast itself is kind of stacked in retrospect. Of course, you guys had like a plague of inactives, but of the people who did stick around and were interesting, I mean, even like the replacement David is it's kind of iconic now.
Right.
The top character from the season.
Yeah, and like pre-merge boot Brian was epic for his copy pastes. Just a lot of like little gems in this season that we can appreciate now. So we'll kind of like go past a lot of the pre-merge. You guys like add in what you can remember from that time. While we're talking about this round in the season, Refuge was going on. And really for me, like watching from the outside, like a majority of the intrigue was on Refuge because those guys are just insane. Episode 1, I think Lindsay was pulled, pretty sure.
No, she like quit or asked to be. No, she like didn't log on until the day she got voted out.
Okay. But then like that first episode, Alicia went fucking batshit. She wasn't super active, but then like that tribal council, I do remember her fighting with everyone and that vote kind of being chaotic.
Yeah. So, you skipped Ramona, who was like my favorite person on the Refuge tribe, who then also bailed.
I love Ramona. I know Every time I bring her, she like bombs, but I just love her personality so much that I kept bringing her back.
Dude, Ramona was someone I distinctly remember. Like the first night we were like talking about doing blow in Jersey Shore on like the first night of the game.
Sounds like my kind of person.
No, yeah, and then she ghosted. And then the whole Alicia thing, I remember her original season, she wasn't very good, but she like tried to put up a fight. I think Karen remembered that, and Karen just like told her who all the alliances were as she was getting voted out. So that way she would scream.
No,
Wow.
she was a train wreck in her original season. Early pre-merge boot. And, history repeated itself. But she was good for that soundbite on the way out. Let's go ahead and move on to round 2. So in this round, Lucayan loses this time. And I believe, is this right? Tano sends Amy to refuge?
They
No, so the thing that was weird, and I remember complaining about this to Gary at the time, that was the one where we lost the challenge, but instead of voting somebody out like they had done to David the day before, they got to choose if we voted somebody out or send somebody to refuge. So we wound up losing and sending somebody to refuge. It didn't really make a ton of sense, but I mean, we sent Amy, not Tino.
Oh, that's bullshit.
But
that I don't remember an Amy being on the season.
I remember Amy.
Nobody does.
She was just boring.
Yeah.
She started out great, and then she got busy and kind of disappeared, but she was fun enough. Everybody said they remember she liked ketchup. That's what everybody remembered about Amy. So that can be her legacy in this too.
Ketchup and ranch, right?
Yeah. That was her personality. Ketchup.
So what is this note? Was it round 1 that... No, it was later that David was subbed in, right?
No, it was round 1.
Yeah, it was round 1.
To round 1. Like the P2, he was subbed in. Yeah, that was my note. And that was just to kind of keep things straight, even though this isn't really straight. Premier is just kind of a blur for all of us.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to follow. I would say it's not even worth trying to sort it out because it's not even where the meat and potatoes of the season were, specifically pre-swap.
Right. I mean, everything pre-refuge entering the game was basically just kind of like jockeying for position within your tribe. At least as far as I remember, the only person from the yellow tribe that left was Margaret, and she was removed for being inactive. Everybody else was present at the swaps.
Right.
It wasn't, like you said earlier, I think this portion of the game was really focused on refuge and who was going to be coming into the game. And the rest of it doesn't really add up to much, other than me and Gary becoming best friends.
Can we talk about that? Because I think that round 2 is when David goes, right? Let's see. Yeah, it's round 2 or 3. Basically, David comes in during that challenge and fucks everything up as an intruder and is demanding people. I mean, it's a time deal, and I'm pretty sure it was the one where you unscramble words, and he was just fucking everything up and yelling at people to fix the words.
Yeah. Posting in the forum, being we're almost ready, Jeff. Stuff like that. Just really weird.
I figured something out right away, and it wasn't even that hard. I just kind of figured one thing out, and then later in the challenge, he's like, "Oh, I figured that thing out," and it's no, I figured out that thing in 5 seconds. Stop talking.
I mean, easily one of the most annoying people we've ever cast. Of course, now we know. At the time he applied as a 28-year-old, we've quickly deduced that he was 13. I
think I told maybe Lucy, it's he's either really young or he's an adult with a disability.
Yeah, he's touched a little bit, yeah.
But to talk about a little bit about David, because he legit was going back and forth between the answers, basically. We literally had it all figured out, but he was just I don't think that was the right idea. I don't think that was right. I don't think maybe this is right. And everyone was just fucking annoyed with him, basically, at that point.
I can remember everyone just yelling at him during that challenge.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
It was honestly so freaking frustrating because we were just getting everything together, but he's just over here fucking shouting that it's all wrong, that everything is wrong, we are wrong. But we're just dude, it's all here. Take a chill pill.
I don't know, you guys lost, so
yeah.
Yeah, but
maybe he was right.
He made it worse.
Yeah,
he just made it worse. Yeah,
you extra lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lucayan wins the next challenge. Gary goes to Refuge. Gary, do you remember your time on Refuge for the short amount of time you were there?
Yeah, it was a shock. I think this is the one where just like Brian got to pick, right? Or something, or Amy got to pick and send me.
That's right. Yeah.
So you had to like contact her offline and whatnot. But yeah, I remember getting on and talking to, I think, literally Chrissy and Ryan, and then I didn't vote, so they didn't give a shit. And then we came in.
Also during this time, this is the big, we're going to get, because this is right before the swap, and I just want to get in the last Refuge Council, which was actually really close. And super chaotic. I mean, it wasn't close, but I do know there were like a lot of different factions that were lying to one another. In particular, shut up, Siri. In particular, I know Joaquin and had snowed Nick and Ryan, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. We were playing the strategy. So like it wasn't a majority, but the group that was like controlling everything was me, Karen, Drew, and Dale. And we had like a bunch of sub alliances with like everybody else. And one of the sub alliances, it was like me, Drew, and Ryan. And then there was another one that was like me, Dale, and Nick or something like that. I don't remember. And then Karen was aligned with Chrissy. And so they wanted to do Nick. And Nick was honestly trying to coast off of like pregame relationships. And then even though basically Drew got pissed at me because I wanted to vote out Nick. So there was like a big thing, and we ended up voting out Nick, which maybe looking back was a wrong move. It was more interesting, but
I remember Nick being super butthurt and like ghosting Stranded in general because of this move. Like he was.
Oh, well, I told him he was my number one like multiple times.
Yeah, he was all Team Joaquin, and like I think he kind of broke him a little bit with that.
I don't know. It makes sense. The way I'm used to playing these things is like you never want to take like some gigantic stand pre-merge. And It felt like taking a gigantic stand against Karen in the pre-merge was just like asking for disaster, and that I could like try to figure shit out with Ryan later, but I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Karen because Karen does really well this season, unexpectedly, I think. Because typically Karen's like strategic, but not really socially connected. But I think this season he stepped his social game up tremendously. But anyway, I don't know that Nick was a bad move because he's kind of a game bot. I don't know. I was super disappointed in Nick after this season because I kept trying to make Nick happen and it just wasn't ever going to happen. So after this, finally, we have Refuge enter the game. Danny, you weren't aware of Refuge before they came in. What were you thinking as those guys entered the game?
You can't help but laugh. I remember Gary like dropped some cryptic shit like the day before when he first found it out because I was like, "Oh, how's Refuge?" And he's like, "It's wild over here." And at first I thought he was joking because it was like people I had never talked to and didn't care about. And then they come in for the swap and you're like, here's a bunch of people who have already played the game. And Gary's like, told you. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. No, it was a good twist. I remember I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, the vets. But I mean, instantly, that was a lot of people's reaction.
Yeah, you were someone who aligned with a lot of the vets. And I think it benefited your game.
Poured myself out.
Yeah. Gary is agreeing.
I was the opposite. Yeah, I was the one who was like, I guess it's a dichotomy now. I guess it's us versus them. Let's do that. Although I was planning on like mostly faking that, but then it just kind of became my reality the entire game, and then I died.
It's kind of interesting because you were a vet with new players and isolated. It's still kind of.
I tried to learn from that mistake.
Yeah, it's still kind of bitchy though. So at this first tribal council, new Lucayan loses and Blake goes home. I thought the swap tribes were really even. What did you guys think of like your post swap tribes? Because that's really where most of the new alliances were formed.
I did okay on mine. I was in the minority over there because Brooke was nobody.
Yeah.
But I was able to like mostly use like Ryan and I think Chrissy was on there. No, she came late. But Ryan and Drew, and then I did okay, except for I left Hannah out.
Was Ryan the only vet on you guys' team?
No, Drew.
Drew.
Oh, Drew.
Yeah,
okay.
Drew.
Well, that's a pretty good bet actually. If you're gonna have only two.
Yeah, I actually tried to work with them, and I thought I was working with them, obviously, but whatever.
I couldn't keep track of the post swap because there was so many different things going on. I just know it was entertaining.
Ours
Yeah.
was fun because we had a full tribe alliance against Blake, which made for my
That's
favorite tribal
right.
council in
Oh my
Stranded.
god, I forgot about that. Wasn't it just like everyone shitting on him and him like crying about how horrible everyone in Stranded is?
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with Karen before that first vote being like, you do realize we're in an 8-person alliance? And he's like, yeah, but Blake's.
Yeah.
I just like how she landed on that.
Yeah, he left, by the way. Blake did suck. He was such a whiny bitch about it.
Yeah, what happened after? Do you remember what he said after the season?
Oh, he was just complaining about how toxic Stranded is and how he'd never been disrespected. And frankly, like, what they were saying at Tribal Council is not that bad. I was like, I basically told him, like, you're a little bitch. You need to suck it up. It's like, you can fuck off because you ain't seen a third of what Stranded could be, So yeah, that was funny. The next Tribal Council, Amy goes unanimously on Tano. New Tano.
I couldn't remember because she wasn't inactive, but she was kind of like not showing up right before she left, right?
Yeah.
She never showed up to this swap.
Yeah, semi-active and then inactive.
She was just there.
She never spoke to anybody in the swap. I'm pretty sure you were going to pull her because you connected her outside the game. It was Brooke Brooke was kind of like in and out and didn't know how the boards worked, even though it was like 5 days in at this point.
Yeah,
Figure it out.
This was the season before I perfected like newbie casting. So like,
yeah.
And I was it was the first time I've simultaneously casted like a group of veterans and a large group of new players. Because of course this was our largest season still that I've hosted in Stranded with 28 players. So it was a lot. So I know for sure. I mean, I'm not shocked that we skimped out a lot of the new players that went early, luckily. Because like right after that, Mari left, and Mari was actually pretty good. Like I remember, I think Hannah, you had a pretty decent relationship with Mari, right?
Yeah, I loved Mari.
Yeah, me too. She was awesome.
Yeah, I've always tried to like track her down to find her, but I don't know. She went the way of the dodo. I don't know.
Yeah, with that swap, I was just like, oh my gosh, she's fucked over there, and I was right.
Yeah, like there was no way she could have survived that unless she probably would have found the idol, but then again, she didn't have any chance to be stacked up on this many of powerful people on a Lucayan tribe. You couldn't even move an inch without being fucked, basically.
Yeah.
It also didn't help that Joaquin found the idol in like an hour.
Well, are we shocked?
Oh, that was so fun. I remember finding that idol. I was like visiting my buddy in DC, and we got home from like going to a bar, and I was like, fuck it, I'll search for the idol. And then I'm literally like on his couch in my pajamas searching for the idol. And I guess he didn't tell his roommate I was crashing. And so he just like walks in on me looking for the idol and looks at me like I'm a fucking crazy person. But yeah, it was like 2 a.m. or some shit.
Yeah, I think Mari goes and then Will goes next. But Mari, I think, is like the pre-merge person that I would have liked to see more from, and still would if we could find her somewhere.
I think she was easily the most swap fucked person in that situation. I think she was the only person from that original Taino tribe that swapped with us. So it was, you had all of the people from Lucayan, and then you had all of the veterans that swapped together.
Well, Lucy was really good. So she was from the Taino tribe, but she's really good. So she found her way in.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we can talk a little bit about Lucy. Zeke, you were always someone who was in Lucy's alliance with Adam on the Taino side.
I really loved Lucy. Like, you cannot even tell me how much I loved her. We really felt like we connected with one another, and we really strongly felt like we could play off of each other's plans, and we could just basically synergize whatever the hell we could have. And generally, I feel like me, Adam, and Lucy were like the strong trio of Tano, basically, where we could just basically work together for that matter, and we pretty much did. When it turned out that in the next tribe swap, she didn't she wasn't with us, I feel like me and Adam, we had to realize that we basically needed to try and find ourselves together and just basically find a way to get to the merge together without completely being overturned as a duo, basically.
Yeah, the tribe swap happens, and Lucy is basically alone on the tribe. Luckily, I think Brooke was with her, and Brooke was there, but not really there. She's like a semi-active, so that was an obvious choice. Joaquin, what was your experience like with Lucy coming aboard and working with you guys?
Well, Brooke actually, I had like played in a game before with, which I found pretty funny. But yeah, Lucy and Brooke were like the two outsiders at that point because what was it? It was like me, Dale, Drew, Danny. We're all in like the majority.
Mm-hmm.
Brooke like didn't show up until like the day of tribal, so that was like an easy first boot. And then the second boot was either going to be Lucy or Brian. That was what that was going to be. But we had been stewing. We all hated Brian since like Refuge. The way he writes is just so fucking irritable at the time. And literally all of us were like trying to throw to like get him voted out at some point. We all hated him so much. And meanwhile, Lucy was like telling us to do like prolapse shots and stuff, and we're like, fuck it, we can chill even. So Lucy was just like chiller. Like Brian was just way too high strung and bad shit for any of us to deal with. So if we had lost that last tribal or gone to that last one, we definitely would have voted out Brian.
Yeah, we'll get to Brian's boot. But that's interesting that Lucy had like 2 buffers when he should have only had 1, if that.
We should back up a second, though, to round 7 with when Drew claimed immunity. He was actually probably going to go that tribal, which is an important thing for later because he played really well.
You're talking about the will boot?
Yeah, the prisoner's dilemma.
Drew was in very much danger at that point. So grabbing that saved his ass, and then he kept it.
Adam was really vouching for him to go. Like, they just didn't trust each other at all.
Drew is a force, especially this season. It was his second time back. I think he was in Allies, right? But he was like terrible in Allies. So this was his second time returning. And I didn't expect much from Drew. I mean, his first season, he came out swinging and he was great. And then in Allies, he was kind of just another number for Dan and then kind of got booted because of that. So I didn't expect a whole lot from Drew. But I think this season, he proved to be like one of our best players overall.
If I could interject, actually, I think Drew played with Dale in his first season, and then he came back for the second one, so it was technically his third time playing?
Correct. I meant his second time returning. He returned.
I just wanted to just show my revisionary skill here.
Yeah. Drew, Wak, and Dale had all played together. Were you guys tightly aligned, Joaquin?
Not at all, actually. It was like I was reluctantly with Dale because I had no other options, and then Drew was in the opposing alliance. But I became good friends with Drew after the game and during Ponderosa because we had a lot in me and Drew just didn't meet each other until the merge when there were 2 giant alliances, so there wasn't like a whole lot of room. Dale, sorry Anna, but Dale's fucking hilarious, weird ass dude.
We'll agree to disagree. Well, let's talk about the last round then. Since we talked about Brooks' boot, we have new Tano, which we have to recognize the name Taints. that was a big part of the season, the Taint tribe.
Yeah, the Taint tribe.
Hannah, you get the boot here. It looks like though it was pretty split. Like it wasn't a straightforward boot.
So before that vote, I was trying to work with Adam, Zeke, and Ryan, who I thought was with me, to try to get out Chrissy because I didn't trust her. I thought she was really fake. Even though she was polite with me, I was like, I don't trust her. I think she's kind of just acting nice, which I was right about. But, I voted for Chrissy, and Zeke and Adam weren't on the same page as me, and they voted for Skipper Jim, and 4 others voted for me.
Okay, and since Hannah has decided to end on that, I just would like to say something about that, because I do have thought about this now, and here's my opinion on this. I feel like with the fact that he was going to go on a cruise basically at that time when the game started, I feel like it was safer for him to go, and I thought that we would all go together. In hindsight, I really should have voted for Chrissy. I think the fuck ups that I did here, which I will go onwards about when I'll get the chance to talk about myself during the final tribal council, realized that was the first dumbest idea I've done then. And I'm still kicking myself in the shins for that.
I thought it was great.
I was so hard-headed, and I was like, I'm going to vote Chrissy. And you were like, no, don't do it. I was like, I'm going to vote Chrissy. And Adam was like, don't do it. I was like, I'm voting Chrissy. And they were like, okay, fine. And I think you guys just didn't really, I don't know. Maybe I should have somebody else.
All I just thought was, I don't think we could have had the vote to, go for her.
I agree.
Because with the fact that the majority of the new Taint tribe was mostly just old Lucayans, I don't think anybody could have flipped to us unless we could have done some more persuasion.
And was with us. That was the problem.
Yeah.
I was briefly kind of the swing vote there because I was deciding between whether to work with Chrissy, who I didn't trust because she was Chrissy, or to try and join you three. But I ultimately decided because Adam and Zeke talked to me a lot, but Hannah didn't at all, that I stayed with the vets for them, even though I wanted Chrissy out probably more than Hannah. But I was briefly the swing vote there, and then you guys lost me.
Yeah, that was a rough spot.
Yeah, let's talk about the next tribal, because I think it wasn't the first time we've done this, but it was the first time this happened where we fake merged with 14 people, shut off communication, had an immunity challenge, which 4 people won. Aaron, Dale, Gary, and Zeke were all immune. And then the rest of you guys had to kind of come to a consensus without speaking to one another privately. And at that time, there were I think the vote tied. It tied twice, right?
It was 4-4 the first round, and then some stray votes.
I think what happened, because I was spectating it, I wasn't in it, but I was actively watching. It was a tie vote that was I don't know, 6-6-2-1 or something like that. Not one, but you get what I mean. And then after that, the votes tied, but 2 people flipped. But one person flipped one way, one person flipped the other way, and that's how it tied again.
Well, the one that was out there, out of nowhere, I forgot that Zeke was immune, so I voted for Zeke. So my vote didn't count at the first one.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. But it did give us the amazing moment because Brian went on this tirade about how he gets fucked by rocks all the time. And then, of course, he goes to rocks, and we all know he ends up picking the bad rock. But then he posts this amazing copy paste about how unfair everything is, how fucked he was by rocks.
Okay, if I could interject here, I think before this game started, he played in a Black Mirror game where he was fake, thought that he would get one person voted out, only for it to turn out that that the round he was booted, basically. It was a white bear moment where basically he was the target all along. And that kind of, I think, was the catalyst for possibly the reason why he got more mad, because he thought it all would end up on him.
And it did.
Yeah.
Bad news, Brian. I mean, the guy is such a train wreck. I love it.
I will say, this is probably my favorite night I've ever had playing in an org. Honestly, I was sitting on my floor drunk for this entire thing and could not believe how it would not stop. I think that because this started off with the Hannah boot, and all of a sudden it was 2.5 hours later by the time Brian's getting rocked out. It was just nonstop the entire night. It was great.
Yeah, so Brian gets rocked. And then the next round is the merge.
Lydia was getting Popeyes, and she kept going in and out.
Lydia, that was a character. So Brian goes home, and then we merge finally. But the funny thing about this was that Jim at this time made this ridiculous post about how he's going on a cruise.
Yeah.
I guess he says he's gonna remain active and talk during the day on the cruise. I don't know. It was so bizarre.
Pay his $5.99 per minute to use the internet.
Yeah. So I just end up removing him because it was this is round 2 of him saying that.
Well, there was some fuckery before that too, because after he left that message, we all started talking well, obviously we're going to vote out Jim now, right? And then there was that going on. So I went to Jim and I was like, I mean, when you posted that, people were like, "You're probably gonna go," and then Jim started to like try and tell people to vote me out instead. Briefly.
Well, did we pull Jim before you, Gary, or after? I think it was after.
I think he may have gone after me.
Yeah.
Which, thank you.
Maybe not. Because I do know there was like talk of us bringing back Brian if everyone agreed, and like no one agreed. So Brian was just extra pissed off. Which I knew no one would agree. I just really wanted to fuck with Brian some more because it was so funny the first time.
That was just salt in the wound.
So no one agrees, and Brian stays gone. And then I think we pulled Jim right after, and it was hilarious because we put Brian in the jury, and so it was just Brian and Jim fighting in the jury the whole time about how he could have quit before and saved them. It was just so funny. So I guess it must have been before you went, Gary.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it says like Jim voted for Drew, and I think it was like a pre-vote. But anyway, so you go home, Gary, is this right? It was a 5-5 vote, so it must have re-voted, huh?
We did get a revote because this is where all of the drama started with me, Joaquin, and Dale, because they had told me we were voting for Adam, and I got blindsided with a Gary vote, but then it was tied, and I had to flip because I wasn't going to go rocks a second time in a row for Gary. Yeah. No offense.
That would have been amazing.
No, that was... I knew Danny flipped when I got to Jerry, too. It made sense. I don't remember that tie either, to be honest, but it makes sense now. Adam tied twice in a row.
But this first round of the merge was so fucking messy. Like, we had that whole weekend where everybody was just, like, I don't think a single person logged off on Saturday other than Drew, which was, like, why Drew was the only person that came out of this weekend not looking like a complete ass. But... I mean, it was just everybody was just spilling all of their secrets that they were learning. And then Dale started a lie about Ryan, like targeting me or targeting Lydia or something. And he was like, but you can't tell anybody. So I told Lydia, because obviously I was friends with Lydia. And then Lydia told Gary, who told Chrissy, who told Ryan, who told Dale. And like, it was just like, you could literally trace it back every single time. And so it was so fucking messy.
And it landed on moi.
I remember targeting Gary, but which maybe was I don't know. I really wanted to work with Gary. I liked Gary a lot, and I knew Gary was tight with Danny, and so I wanted to like a 4 alliance of like me, Danny, Dale, and Gary to like move forward. But Gary stonewalled me on that, and clearly had no interest in working with me whatsoever. So at that point, like, it was go after Adam, who I hadn't met yet and hadn't like taken aside, but was friends with Lucy and was just like, whatever, versus someone I knew who wouldn't work with me and would actively work to try to get me out. So that felt like the better call, even though Danny ended up leaving me over it.
I'm pretty sure it was all because I was attached to Ryan at that point because he saved my ass in the last tribe. So like I was attached to Ryan. He was vet enemy number 1.
Yeah, and to be fair, he would have left that round or would have been voted for that round if he didn't win immunity.
Yeah.
Classic.
Also, I just would like to add that I think there was a rumor as well that Gary and Ryan were actually tight duo that were trying to work against everyone and just like trying to blindside everyone and whatnot. I think that was also another catalyst to add to the thing.
How nefarious!
Everybody just hated Ryan. It didn't matter why they hated Ryan. They hated him, and I was attached to him. So then it was over.
I felt bad for Ryan because I mean he was attached to Nick, and then he got blindsided by Joaquin pretty hard, and so like the majority of the pre-merge was just him trying to find his footing against Joaquin's fuckery. And I know Joaquin wanted Ryan gone because of that, because he had to have known he fucked him over.
Also, I extremely also felt bad because my fucking dumbass decided to make a fucking final 3 alliance with him and Adam. And the next round that I made this fucking alliance, I voted him fucking out. And oh yeah, I did do that. My dumbass did really do that. And this is another fucking bad idea of mine. Fucking make final 3 plans, final 12 or 13. Like,
I thought, yeah, Ryan had a really rough season this time, and to the point where he just like left stranded as well as Nick. I don't know what you did to these guys, Joaquin, but you're really.
I mean, to be fair, he like some of it was not his fault. Some of it was absolutely his fault.
He had an
It was
idol.
like-
Don't forget, Ryan had a fucking idol in his pocket and knew he was going home.
Yeah,
Well, that's next
it was,
round, yeah.
Well, no, and the thing too was he was like that round. He's like pleading with me for his life, and I'm willing to hear anyone out. But I'm like, you have to show me that you have a plan and why that's good for me and that why I should trust you. And he basically was just trying to fish me for names the whole time, so that way he could go run and tell whoever's name I threw out there. And so, like, why am I supposed to attach to that? Like, you need to, when you're in that position, you need to be like, hey, like, by the way, I see this alliance brewing that's you're going to make you go next. So we need to go for this one particular person, and then shut your mouth.
Well, yeah, Ryan got the moniker Ryan the Rat in his original season, and I think he carried that into the season. I personally love him as a character. I think he's endlessly entertaining for how he plays. I would love to see him again now.
I gotta say that I really loved Ryan. He was such a great guy. I couldn't hate him, even if you told me to hate him. Like,
yeah, I think he would be someone who might do well at like Off-Stranded, where he doesn't have a reputation coming in, or people who know him like Chrissy. So the next round, this is Danny's epic win of numbers. I think when Danny solidified himself as like a threat amongst players.
that was queen shit what she did.
Yeah, Danny, you kind of, I mean, you set a record, I think, for dominating the numbers game.
It's all about spreadsheets, baby.
Yeah. And then this round, of course, after your epic win, Ryan gets voted off with the idol. Why did he not play his idol?
I think he just knew he was so screwed. Like, there's no way he was making it any further than the next time he didn't win immunity. And I think he was just over it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if I remember, he was so defeated at that point that he didn't even play his idol, which stupid. I mean, you know, there's always tomorrow in Stranded.
Yeah, that was a bad idea for him to not play the idol.
Well, yeah, the thing that I was curious about is, like, who would he have taken out there? Like, he basically has a free shot at whoever he wants. I think we might have split onto either Zeke or Adam at that point, but...
Yeah, Adam was toast unless he needed to have a plan there. Like, he needed to come to, like, me and Dale and say, like, we need to get out Karen this round or something like that, and then stick to it.
Well, that you know, if he had his mind right, he totally could have made a run out of that. But I think by that point he'd been kicked so many times that he was just like done with this and tired of being like
played on Gary.
yeah, tired of being public enemy number one. I think so. After that round, going into round 12, Drew wins immunity. The Golden Girls Alliance forms. I love this alliance. I believe that's Chrissy, Karen, and Lydia, right? Or Danny too.
It was all the old ladies. It was me, Lucy, Lydia, Chrissy, and Karen.
Love that. And I really think Karen was a big reason of why that formed, if I'm not mistaken.
100%, because this is the like turning point, at least in mine and Joaquin's games, where Karen decided that she didn't want Joaquin in the game anymore. And that's why our alliance formed, is because Joaquin and Dale were planning to take me out. And then Karen decided, no, like, I don't want to do that. Formed an alliance and then went from there.
I mean, that's epic as shit, like, at that point, because, of course, from, like, viewers, I mean, we're rooting for Danny at that point. And to see someone like Karen go off and make a rival alliance to get out, really, the Indonesians.
For me and Adam.
Yeah, with Joaquin. Joaquin, up to that point, you were kind of calling the shots, or at least micromanaging a lot of what was going on. So to see you be blindsided 5-4 to 1 was pretty awesome.
I was pretty conflicted on playing that idol. I was like 50-50. Dale who was it? Almost blew it. Or no, it was Lydia. Because Lydia messaged Dale right before Tribal, something like, so the split vote is still on, right? And Dale was like, nobody has talked about a split vote. That means like somebody's trying to fuck with us. I think we counted on Lucy one vote too many was the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, you guys were supposed to have Drew too, but Drew threw his vote.
No, Drew, we didn't count on Drew on this because we thought Drew was up your ass. We just thought that Lucy was going to stick with Adam and Zeke, and that was our number. and so that it didn't matter because Lucy wouldn't want to betray her final 3 deal, but that was the miscalculation.
Yeah. Well, because the way that I saw it was we thought it was just going to be the 5 girls voting for you, but Chrissy wanted to keep Drew in the loop because she went and told Drew that we were voting for you. And we thought that it was going to get back to you. And that's why we were worried about the idol. But, different perspectives.
I love that round. Again, like I said, it's not a season that we'll remember as one of the best, but it had its moments, and that was certainly one of them. Really, I think what will define the season is how many great players there were at the same time. Whereas, maybe it wasn't the most dramatic or over the top, but everyone was playing at a very high level. So this round, Joaquin unfortunately goes, really flipped the game completely upside down to where the next vote's kind of all over the place too. Lydia wins touchy subjects. Dale is voted out playing a fake idol. I don't remember that, but that sounds hilarious.
I remember it, unfortunately.
Okay, I think I need clarification on that. I'm not sure if it was either Drew or Dale that played it.
No, it was Dale.
Oh, yeah.
What happened was at the touchy subjects challenge, all of the negative ones, like the who do you never want to speak to again, went to Dale. And I think the vote was actually kind of obvious. Mm-hmm. He showed up at Tribal and he was like, by the way, I have this idol here. And it was that fake Aussie idol that he had.
He went back to a previous season and copied an idol.
Yeah.
But then the entire time they just spent Lydia and Lucy were like, oh, how come the data on that image says it was made in 2015? Asking him all these questions about it because they,
that's hilarious.
It was very clearly an old idol, but it matched your design style on a bunch of the stuff you had made for our season. So people like me who had no fucking idea that the idols all looked the same at the time was like, fuck, he found an idol. Because I wound up switching my vote to Adam just in case. Because I was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna be the person idled out here.
That's pretty funny. So yeah, rip Dale. So next round, Lydia wins immunity again. Karen attempts to blindside Drew, and Lucy uses the opportunity to blindside Karen. I was wondering about this.
I actually have to say this. I kind of caught on to the fact that Karen wasn't really getting targeted. I feel like she was getting really smoky with the fact that nobody would even point fingers at her. And I kind of nudged the move toward blindsiding Karen towards people and tried to see if it would stick, basically. And honestly, I really genuinely felt that Karen was playing a great game where she wasn't getting anybody's attention, and she was just basically having no votes casted at her at all. So I thought that it would be a great idea for that round she left to basically blindside her.
It looks like Tano, Lucy, Adam, Zeke added Drew to their group because you guys voted together against all. Back to back, we see the Golden Girls go home minus Lucy. Yeah. So it looks like Lucy flipped back to Tano to take out the rest of the people.
Yeah, she basically went back to us, and especially with the fact that me, Adam, and Drew were kind of getting along together, we basically decided to combine our powers to take Karen out.
Yeah, this is also when Drew really steps on with the gaslighting with me and Lydia, where he every single time was like, I'm voting with you guys, and would then come back after the vote and be like, I don't know what the fuck happened. I think Chrissy flipped, all this shit. And at that point, I trusted him more than I trusted Chrissy because Chrissy was crazy. But this vote,
legend,
the vote where Karen went home, is when it really started to get a little more clear that Drew was working against us, because the only votes for Adam and Zeke, which was our original plan, were me and Lydia. So we're like, fuck it. Everybody is working against us at this point. So it was, this is definitely the turning point in the game where Lucy basically solidifies the final 4 at least.
Right.
Yeah.
So this next round, Drew wins immunity. Drew and Lucy spread that Danni has the vote. Danni misplays an idol on herself, and Chrissy is eliminated.
Yeah.
So Danni, you had the idol up until that point, and then this round, I guess you got snowed into thinking you were going to go home, and they switched the vote.
It also didn't help that Lydia came up with this master plan that she was going to try and get in good with Adam and Zeke, and get them to start voting with us by voting me out. Like, but secretly knew that I had the idol, which wasn't really a secret.
I got you.
But it was basically just I had heard from like 4 different people that my name was coming out, and it was my first game ever, so I didn't realize at that point that means you aren't the vote, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But this is also, Chrissy and I were coming off of 24 hours of not getting a single message from Adam, Zeke, or Lucy, like headed into this vote, which is when Chrissy started being just like a complete cunt to everybody in the game.
Yeah.
Legend. So Chrissy's voted off.
And good riddance.
I love that crazy bitch. So the next round, Danny, you win immunity. Hallelujah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Lydia is voted off.
So sad.
That was pretty much straight to the point at this point. She was very good, and pretty much anybody could have taken her to the end. And
yeah, I think at this point, I mean, sorry to say this, Zeke, but you and Adam were like out of the running, I think, to win at this point. So really, you had 3 immunity threats going into the final with Lucy, Drew, and Danny. And I think that you guys were kind of duking it out. It was pretty close. Danny in the final 5, you lose to Lucy and you go home.
I was so close on that one too. I sent in my thing with broken links. I was so pissed.
Yeah. I remember it being super close and everyone being disappointed. But you had said like you would have lost the final.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's no way I would have made it through the box. I mean, the first one being like get the people, like name who went out in what order. Like I didn't know any of the people that left Refuge. I didn't know any of their names headed into the game. Like if you would have said there was a person playing named Ramona, I would have told you were lying to me.
Right. So we're headed into the final 4 now. I made a change to this challenge consciously ahead of the time in the rules, which I think fucked Drew up because he probably did not read the rules, assuming they were going to be the same as they were before.
Seasons, yeah.
But I wanted there to be this element of, I don't know if you guys have seen that challenge on Survivor where they, in the old school Survivor, where they would ask questions and they would have to take the talismans with them as they answered each question correctly, and inevitably someone would drop one and have to go back. That's kind of where I was thinking. I had no idea it would play such a huge role in the outcome, and it was such a close battle between Drew and Lucy, to where Drew did not remember to post in every thread. He had to go back and post in each one saying he had made it to that point. And it was just enough time for Lucy to snag the win. And of course, that meant Drew had to go home at that point.
That was a nail biter to watch, though.
Oh, it was incredible. And really, I mean, if Drew wins, he wins the season. Lucy goes home.
Right.
And I think deservedly, you know, I think Lucy and Drew were both equally deserving of winning based on how they played. Of course, I think Lucy's the rightful winner in many ways, but also I think the fact that it was his first season of Stranded, really, I was rooting for Lucy too. But super close final immunity, probably the closest we'll get for that particular challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Drew ends up going home, and then we go to the final tribal council.
The moment Lucy won, we immediately had it down that Drew had to go, basically.
Right. And honestly, like, I was surprised at how well you and Adam took losing to Lucy so handedly. Like, you guys were like, yeah, I mean, she deserved it. It was like, which is not usually the answer people give when they lose final tribal council, you know.
In my defense, had I fucking decided to go into everyone that were like trash talking me, I would have been fucking crucified. I legit would have been fucking crucified. It wouldn't be final tribal council. It would be final crucifixion of Zeke Smith. For God's sake, like I got the worst beat out by goddamn fucking Karen, who called me a goddamn, if I remember correctly, inept fucking social retard or something like that. And that was fucking hardcore. But at least she gave me a compliment because she said that I wasn't a fucking idiot. And at this point, I could have taken that and been like, okay, that's at least better than getting a vote. Being complimented by fucking Karen, because fucking Karen went in on Adam. She fucking called him a blonde in a goddamn interracial gangbang. Like, what the fuck? Like, that, when I fucking read her rant, I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, and it's funny because Lydia and Chrissy voted for Adam, and you didn't get any votes. Like, fuck.
honestly, like, I was just basically at that point realizing that I was just too fucking delusional. Like, let's be fucking real.
I love that about you, Zeke. I love that you're just willing to be like, well, yeah, I fucked that up.
Looking back on it, I did fuck up. Like, all in all I gotta say is that when it all turned out that I was getting shut out, at least I could fucking go out trying to look like a decent person. And that's all I could have done, basically, to at least look presentable enough.
Are there any other highlights from Final Tribal Council from the other jurors?
Ooh.
I don't think any of them were ridiculous.
I wasn't, but any speech that has in conclusion in it, I'm going to hate. So, sorry, Zeke, I did not like your speech.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't think any of them were ridiculous. I think the only thing of note was Prissy being a little OTT and trying to cause a little chaos, and then ultimately just voting for Adam to give Zeke third place. Like, that was really the only drama of Final Tribal.
Yeah.
I give two shits about Prissy, so she could have just had that vote up her ass, really.
She probably would want that.
Oh, yeah. Wak, what was, you said that this was the easiest vote you've had to cast at a tribal council.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, as soon as you can like look at the Ponderosa from the season, as soon as I was the night I was voted out, I was like, okay, Lucy's going to win the game. Like, I could just tell what was happening. And so, yeah, final tribals that are blowouts are generally more snooze fests. But that usually means that there's a good winner. If there's like a closer one, then it's more contentious. But like we all knew whichever Drew or Lucy won the final challenge was going to win the season.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about Lucy a little bit. Lucy, of course, passed away a year ago, almost to the day, on August 16th. He won Stranded almost 2 years ago to the day on August 11th or August 13th. One of the two. I think he was announced as the winner on the 13th. Needless to say, probably, if not the best first-time winner, certainly one of our best winners. I just think, especially in this particular season, first of all, this season had the most players. So on paper, the winner of it was going to have the best record. But also, I just thought like he was head and above strategy-wise, even a lot of the returning players. Of course, he had a wealth of gaming history, but still watching him play socially was incredible. And I think that that's the legacy Lucy's going to leave behind in Stranded.
I think it's rare to have someone who's both like one of the strategic leaders and one of the more like ODT personalities of the season win this season. You know,
right?
You don't get that combo to win a whole lot.
Yeah, like it's pretty rare. I mean, Stranded's had it a couple of times, but certainly I don't think it was ever like a first time player that's dominated strategically and socially and was also over the top. You're right.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so crazy because it's like Lucy was such a big part of the community because we started the community right around the time of Turks. So to then have him like as our flagship winner at the time to then pass away was so crazy. But I think, you know, that's something that we'll always remember is just how hilarious and dominant this season was. And I can't think of this season without thinking of Lucy's performance. And I even find myself like going back to read a lot of the confessionals because they're so hilarious, but also really strategic. And I just think, you know, that's the kind of player. If I'm thinking of a quintessential Stranded person that we find later in the game, Lucy's it, you know?
Yeah, Lucy was one of a kind. And honestly, she really was unique to this series. And she really was someone who really helped me a lot during the tribal council, as I remember. When I was getting like fucking torn down, like she really was there to like just help me out there and just basically even if we were like final three partners, and she would still go in for the kill during the freaking questions and like answer them. We still were friends. It wasn't that we were basically just like competitors going at each other like you saw in like freaking Survivor. We still were friends. She really was an amazing player who really deserved it more than anything. And I just couldn't think of a season that would be without her. Like, let's be fucking honest here. She really was one of a kind. She was the star of this season. And honestly, it's just heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking to hear what has happened to her, and it honestly broke my heart the first time that I found out that she died. It honestly was freaking shocking to me.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think as a community we all feel that way because even the attitude of this season with all the crazy veterans, but also the new people. I think when I think on this season, it's really the start of our community as a whole, and I think Lucy's a big part of that. So a fitting winner, I think she really helped shape like the attitude of that season and the humor of it. And really, I think there's not too many seasons where people come out of it, even the people who lost to Lucy, thinking like, yeah, you have my respect as like a really good winner. And I think universally everyone felt that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the way things turn out, like, I don't know. Usually you feel at least a little bitter towards the end. Once you got to Final Five, and like, I would have been happy voting for Danni, Drew, or Lucy. It was like very strange versus like other seasons I've played on where like I'll get to Final Five and I'll be like, if this person makes the fucking final tribal council, like I can't.
Right. So I think that's going to close it out for me for this podcast. Is there any other like tidbits that you guys remember that you wanted to mention?
Freaking Drew's fake idol.
Oh,
we have to put that at rest.
I forgot about that.
I was bringing this up. I need to rest my case on the Drew fake idol thing because this didn't give me a goddamn freaking rest.
Explain what the fake idol was.
The reason why I was shocked to find out that Drew had an idol, which actually wasn't real, but it looked freaking real to me. Like, it really looked, compared to freaking the idols that the people probably have had, it looked genuinely authentic to me.
Yeah, it was smart.
No, that fake idol, he told every single one of us, like, and his whole spiel was like, I found this on Refuge. It was hidden in the banner on the top of the page. There was a lock and I clicked it and I found it. And the rule of this idol is it gets to keep one newbie and one veteran safe at a tribal council up to Final Five. Like, he had this whole thing. He like wrote out a clue and was sharing it with all of us. And like at that point, I knew I was fucked no matter what happened. So you just kind of have to be like, oh, I heard somebody might be playing an idol on me. Drew, you're so kind, so benevolent. But like, he went all out on that idol. And like Zeke said, it was kind of plausible. Like, you're like, okay, we all had idols on our pre-merge beaches. Why wouldn't there have been one on Refuge?
And he was working on that forever because he showed me that fake guy. He told me it was fake, like on our first walk tribe. He was already working on that thing when he took the dilemma. He already had work on that fake idol.
That's some king shit, honestly.
It's in your face for that, for questioning my sanity.
In your face. Zeke's the best.
I love you.
And you can call me crazy, but at least I'm rationally crazy.
Yeah, Zeke, I'm going to use "in your face" as a soundboard bite.
In your face.
Thank you.
Were there any other moments that anyone remembers they want to bring up?
Also, we have to talk about David screaming, "I trusted you, Zeke!"
In the tree mail.
Oh God, David Tree Mail.
Yeah. Tree Mail with the rhymes.
Yeah, he honestly asked me if he could do something. I was like, you wanted to be the Tree Mail, and I was like, yes, please be the tree. So then it became a recurring joke of the season.
I miss the shout box too. I wish the new seasons used it like we did.
The shout box.
Yeah, the shout box went the way of the dodo.
Yeah. No, David's performance throughout that entire season, both his one round of gameplay and his tree mail stint, they were iconic. It was so funny.
I stan a pre-merge one note joke that recurs throughout a season.
Yeah. And that being, I trusted you, Zeke. When this was happening, I was like legitimately confused. Like, what the fuck?
The only other moment I had that was really a standout for this season was we had lost. This was pre-merge. We had lost a couple immunities in a row, and Karen decided to give us a pump-up speech. And in true Karen fashion, it was just like, it was filthy, and it was just like, just trashing the taints. I think he used some slurs about Hannah looking just like a terrible Jew. Like, all this stuff.
I'm going to find this.
I think we have it as a pasta, to be honest.
I have to fucking say this. Like, legit have to say this. Never in my life have I been insulted like that. And this should be a compliment to fucking Karen. Because after Karen, every insult that anybody has ever said is null. Nobody can hurt me the way fucking Karen did.
Go ahead and read Karen's pep talk, Hannah.
Let's just go through it. Let's face facts. We have sucked in these challenges. I don't know if it's because this tribe is cursed or we've got no skills. But I'm saying now, enough is enough. Every time we step into the arena, we gotta play these challenges. We end up looking soft as shit, bitch. It makes no fucking sense to me. Because this tribe we're going up against is whack. Their hair, whack. Their gear, whack. Their smugness, whack. Their sex life, whack. The way that they talk, whack. The way they refuse to have any fun, whack.
Was that it?
No, there's 3 other paragraphs, but I don't think anybody wants to read that. They can. It's in bots.
Oh, yeah. I think I will finish that. Okay. I mean, look at... Okay. And they also have fucking... Oh. Don't even get me started on the transgender version of Ned Flanders. Oh. Fucking Jew. It's already bad enough that the Jewish are taking our money and property ownership from us, and we now got one of them stealing challenge wins from us as well. It's absolutely ridiculous that we're getting beat by this pathetic excuse of a tribe. Wow. Another one looks like one of Willy Wonka's Oompa Loompas that escaped from the chocolate factory. 2 of them are literal senior citizens. One of them looks like an actual fucking ferret. What the fuck? Jesus Christ.
It's honestly an iconic moment. And that was like, I think that was like my first real introduction to like the humor of Stranded. And I mean, Karen is kind of like the epitome of like the dark and like offbeat humor that we have here. But no, it was great. I loved it.
Vengeance.
I love Brian and Jim were like fighting all early Ponderosa because Brian was so pissed that Jim quit after he was rocked out of the game. And then Karen got in on it at some point and was like, "Oh yeah, Brian, I'm sure you forgot all about me, even though we pretty much have been with each other since the start and talked every round, where I had to put up with your overtly fake people-pleasing bullshit. I've read through the entire Ponderosa and learned pretty much all that I need to know about you and your little post-game antics. Stop being bitter and get the fuck over it already. You weren't robbed." Which I had to copy-paste it because it was fucking hilarious to see Brian talk about how robbed he was all Ponderosa. Yeah, I think, Zeke, if I could just have you read a dramatic reading of all of Karen's messages, that would be amazing.
Oh my god, I would love to freaking read her final tribal council speech. Can I, please? Can I?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
We can edit this out, though. We'll get it in post.
Yeah.
We're running a little bit long now, so I want to thank you guys for getting back together, reliving the season. I think not that many people will have heard of or remembered the season before now, so hopefully this will educate people a little bit. Though. Yeah, now it will become a classic. Yeah,
it's gonna be an underrated gem.
Perfect.
Yeah,
there we go.
I think that's gonna do it for us. It was fun reliving the Turks and Caicos with you guys.
Taints forever.
Taints forever.
I think that's gonna do it.
Bye. It's your boy, Skinny Penis.